Hey everybody, I am Haley Gray and I am so excited to be with you here this afternoon. It is Wednesday, February 5th. I don't know where January went. It's kind of like I blinked it and it was over, but January also felt like its own year. It was just crazy. So welcome today. If you're catching us on the live, give us a hashtag live. If you're catching us on the replay, give us a hashtag replay and let us know that you're out there. And hit us up with your questions. I have got Joe DiChiara here with me today, and we're going to be answering some of your gnarly questions about how to respond to IRS letters and other government correspondence. Ooh, what a gnarly subject. Welcome, Joe.
Hey, Haley. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It is a wonderful, rainy Wednesday afternoon. So I'm glad to be here, warm and dry.
Yeah, it's a good day to get some work done.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what you do and who you are so people kind of know like what your credentials are.
So I'm a CPA and I've been jumping in on these lives with you, a couple of days now, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm first an entrepreneur. I was born to be an entrepreneur. I thought I had a virus at one point because I kept doing all these entrepreneurial things. And I actually became a CPA because I wanted to learn about business. I didn't plan on being an accountant, but that's what happened. And I've had a great career, a lot of different kinds of experience, interesting stuff, forensic accounting, criminal tax cases, audits, and also basic bookkeeping, accounting, and tax preparation. I've worked basically with only small businesses. And about 9 months ago, I turned my practice around to focus on the smallest of small businesses, the people that might just have an idea and they're not, even started yet, or, up to the, the solopreneur like we are. I don't have employees all over the place. I work from home, and we have a particular need when it comes to running our business. And what I found, Haley, is our business model, the solopreneur business model, does not fit with all the traditional teachings about how to run a business. They don't talk about things like mindset and masterminding and the little odds and ends that we all got to deal with. An established business, even with 3 or 5 employees, are in a different universe than we are. First of all, you and I were working from home. I used to go to clients just to see people because I could just work from home all the time.
Right.
And that's not good. We need to interact with people. And that's another thing they never taught me in college. I learned all this stuff about business, financial statements, marketing. I took a lot of psychology courses because I knew something had to, jive with business and psychology. But they didn't tell us that you need to, fill in the gaps. You're going to be strong in one area and you're not going to be strong in another. And when we are, on our own, we try to either overcome those weaknesses on our own, or we ignore them. And so on my end, which is the, people consider the boring end of business, it starts with bookkeeping and accounting and tax. There's no way around that.
Right.
So avoiding it is it's gonna contribute to you struggling and ultimately failing. And, I entered this market segment because of that, because there is a huge problem. There's over 25 million sole proprietors. No, they are I'd say 95% of sole proprietors don't even have any employees.
Mhm.
That's 25 million Americans that are in business on their own, and for the most part, don't have the right kind of support. And so Facebook Lives like this is a way for me to, share my knowledge with the public. And I chose this topic today because it's tax season. Everybody's thinking about taxes. And
Right.
one thing I've learned is that when a business person, and probably even a regular, wage earner or any taxpayer, when we get a letter from the government, there is never a good feeling attached to that.
No, that letter, when it says that it's from the IRS, is kind of a definite like party pooper.
Oh yeah, subconsciously, we're still, we were born with this fight or flight mentality.
Of course.
So right away, people have in their minds is that the IRS is out to get them, and this can't be good.
Well, and of course, that is kind of the truth. I mean, if you get a letter from the IRS, there's very few cases where it's a good thing.
Yeah, but for the most part, it's not a bad thing.
Mhm.
Okay, and that's what I want to educate people on. What happens to us, and again, they didn't teach me this in college, but when we get that fear and anxiety, we're putting stress on ourselves. And that stress contributes to not running our business as good as we can be running it.
Right.
So I'm reading this awesome book right now. It's called Atomic Habits.
Mhm.
And it's all about making a very little change in the things that you do. And
Right.
over time, they compound
Right.
until you're like, oh my God, if I, all that time I tried to go to the gym and work out, I just gave up after a week. But the idea with Atomic Habits is, listen, don't go there, to work out. Just go there for 5 minutes every day.
Right.
So you go there 5 minutes, and this was a true story. The guy went there and then after a while, he was like, well, I'm here. I might as well just work out a little, because when you start working out, you feel good. And it's the same thing with business. So when it comes to things like the mundane things like bookkeeping, okay,
Yeah.
you just approach it one little step at a time. Because if you don't, it's going to be overwhelming. Successful people learn how to compartmentalize. Okay. So what I'm saying is, we get this letter from the IRS, we get all, okay, I don't want it. So a successful person will put that on the side and deal with it, because it's not an emergency. It's not an IRS agent outside with a gun and a badge. So a successful person that runs his business, the way I believe it should be run, they put the notice on the side. Okay. They deal with the task at hand, which is whatever that they're supposed to be doing, if it's dealing with a client or whatever. The unsuccessful entrepreneur lets that letter eat at them. They're calling their accountant. They're, texting. Why isn't he getting back to me? This is not, I'm not making this stuff up.
Right.
So with my clients, I make it simple. You get a letter, the first thing you have to do is open it. You don't know how many times people call me and say, I got a letter from the IRS. What do I do? Well, what does it say? I didn't open it yet. I don't know what to do. So my instructions are, open the letter, open it all the way so that you could take a picture of exactly what it says, just the first page, and send it to me. They send it to me and I'm right on top of it. And 98% of the time, it's nothing.
Right.
There's a lot of junk mail that comes from the IRS, believe it or not. It's their way of keeping us informed. Okay, they're sending you things about, you know, the new tax law changes, and they're sending you
Mhm.
forms. And so most of the time it's nothing. But what I want to do now is give, you know, your people in this group a framework on how to deal with any kind of business letter, because it's not just the IRS, and I'll tell you who it is. Uh, there are certain steps that you can take that takes all the fear and anxiety out of dealing with this. And really, it's just a routine matter. It's like filling out, you know, an insurance form. You know, it's paperwork that comes with the territory of being in business. Okay, so
Right.
the first class category of letters are the phony ones. You know, everybody's gotten these letters, they look official, and it has to do with buying posters. Okay, now if you have employees and you're at a location and you're required to post these posters. You know, it has to do with labor law and insurance and workers' comp. You know, and a whole slew of posters that you're supposed to have. So they, you know, looking like it's from the government, and it's a scam. They're
Yeah.
selling you stuff that you can get for free, that you can download. So
Right. Yeah. This is like the people who contact you to sell you your Google My Business listing, you know, and it's only $300 to have your Google My Business listing set up. Y'all, that's a scam too. You can set up your own Google My Business listing completely for free.
exactly. So,
but it's that kind of thing, you know, people pay for it because they don't know any better.
I can't tell you how many people just pay for it. And then when I'm going over the books, I'm like, what is this, you know, $89? Because it's always the same company, you know. They're like, oh, I got a letter from the government and it said to buy these documents. No, you know, so one of my rules is you don't write a check for anything until I've seen it. Because what happens is I can't get that money back. Sometimes if it's a tax that was paid that, you know, they shouldn't have paid, I might be able to get it back, but now that's a whole bunch of work. You know, I had somebody do that with, believe it or not, it was over $6,000. And I spent 2 years trying to get that back for them. And they said, well, I got a letter and said to pay it by, you know, in 2 weeks. Well, you know, so they panicked, they jumped the gun instead of calling me. And I don't understand. If I'm writing a check for $6,000, I'm calling everybody to make sure I got to pay this. But getting back to the phony government correspondence, you know, there's the poster one, okay, and then there's the corporate bylaw one.
Mm.
Some states require a corporation to keep minutes, okay? So, and this is another one, I can't tell you how many people buy this. Now, you could keep minutes on a Post-it note.
Right.
Okay? You don't have to, and I called the company once and I said, why would anybody pay you to do this? And they said, well, we put it in a nice frame for you. So they're going to actually frame the, you know, the board meeting. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
You know,
we're going to frame your meeting minutes.
yeah. So, you know, it comes.
And your corporate bylaws, which may change at any time depending on your business's needs.
Yeah. So the bylaws, yeah, they're two different things. I'm sorry. The bylaws are what you should have when you first incorporate. You know, but yeah, it might be required, but you don't have to pay somebody to do it. It's like the Google My Business. I did it and it took like 3 minutes. It's not complicated. But so California actually has something on their website, the tax department, about this company. They said, listen, if you get correspondence from them, it is not us. And they have a picture of the car, and it looks like it's official government business. That should be illegal, you know?
Right. No, that should absolutely be illegal. And yet, you think that, oh my gosh, you have to do this.
Right. And so the people's mentality, and it's built into us, is I got to do this. It's from the government. And
Right. The government says I have to do it. Right.
It's not even that much money. It's like less than $100, but you're paying $100 for something that's worthless. It's worthless. So the first thing you got to do is determine, who is this letter coming from? My clients get a letter, and every time it's from the IRS. It's not always from the IRS.
No.
So the first thing you got to do is look at the envelope. On the top right, no, the top left.
Right.
It says who it's from. Is it from the state income tax department? Is it from the Department of Revenue? Is it have to do with payroll? Or is it from the IRS? Okay. So once you know who it's from, you throw out the fake ones. Okay. And now you're going to say, okay, which of these are just information? Okay. You open it up and you will know right away, because you read what it says. Okay?
Right.
If the letter from the IRS doesn't have an amount due on the front page, you're in the clear. Okay, when you owe them money, it's going to be, they're going to give you a payment voucher. Okay, that's the kind of letter you have to answer.
Right.
Okay, I'll take you through how to actually answer it if you don't have an accountant. If you have an accountant, then you say, oh, I got a letter from the IRS and they're asking for money.
Right.
Okay.
Well, and then what do you do if you get that letter from the IRS and they're telling you owe money? Because I think a lot of people at that point plots and either shut down or they write a huge check.
Yeah, well, and this is what I'm talking about. That's when, the fear and anxiety comes in. And I have to tell you, I'm just going off my, I'm guesstimating based on my 35 years of experience, but 80% of the time that they say you owe money, there is no money due. It's probably some kind of administrative glitch. Either you forgot to send in the form. Okay, you forget to send in the form. They don't ask you for the form anymore. They send you a bill. That's how it works. So, or, maybe, and this happened a couple of times. There was a glitch in the electronic filing system on my software company's part. Technology gets glitchy, and a couple of my state returns didn't get processed. So the state doesn't know if you owe them money. They send a letter saying, oh, you made this much, you owe us this because you didn't even file your return. Well, all that takes is filing the return, and that's what I had to do.
Right.
So,
and a lot of times if you're a savvy business owner, you're not even going to owe anything.
Yeah, if you're on top of your business, I saw a funny cartoon the other day. It was, they said, euphoria is when you get your tax refund, and then like 3 minutes later, you get depressed because you realize that it was your money to begin with. You're only getting a refund of money that you paid in advance. Now, if you're making money and you got to pay taxes, what you're supposed to do is really pay them throughout the year.
Right.
So that's the way the system's set up. And if you're making money and you have to pay tax, I'm not like anti-pay tax. You know,
Right. No.
the law is to legally pay the minimum amount of tax possible. That's a valid business strategy. Okay. So it's legal for me to minimize my clients' taxes, but if they're due, and that goes to what you just said, a savvy businessman should always know where they stand with taxes. Yeah, it's a big part of your business. You know, if you're making money, you're partners with the government. You're paying 40% of your net profit in taxes.
Right.
Okay. I would say that's important to be on top of. I'm on top of my car insurance. You know, it's part of your business. And, you know, this goes to what our 5-day challenge is really going to start with. It comes down to doing your business with intention. Okay. It comes down to looking at your business with clarity. You know, Jenny Wright talked about this in her 5-day challenge.
Right.
You know, I'm guilty of this too. You know, I'm a typical entrepreneur. We go into business shooting from the hip. Okay. My weakness was not in the production side or the administrative side. My weakness was in the marketing side. You know, so I shot from the hip for years on the marketing side, and that, you know,
ready, fire, aim, right?
Yes. And sometimes I hit, you know, and the bad thing was I always got clients, but I never had that steady, I didn't have that marketing system. And we need systems in order to run our business. I don't care if you're a candy store. And implementing a bookkeeping system that's tied to your accounting system, that's tied to your marketing, that's tied to your production, that's how you're supposed to run a business. You can't, you know, ignore one aspect of it. When you go into business, you took on the responsibility of being responsible, you know, and so getting letters is just part of the process. You're gonna get letters. You know, it's like you go into business, pain is inevitable. It's not gonna be easy. So instead of getting fear and anxiety when you get a letter, you deal with it. You deal with it like any other piece of correspondence, because believe it or not, yeah, it's not the IRS. It's really Congress, okay, that passes ridiculous tax laws. The IRS is only an administrative arm of the government.
Right. They're just doing what they've been told to do and follow
exactly.
through on whatever inane processes somebody in Washington conceived for them to do.
Do you know what they have to do? Think about this. Congress, so Trump and Congress passed this new law, which I think, you know, helped small businesses tremendously.
Right. And let's just be clear, this is not just Trump. This just happens to be this administration.
Well, I said Trump because, you know, it was his
right. It happened to be during this administration, right?
Right.
But you get this kind of inane behavior out of every administration, I think.
Yeah, but the point is that the IRS is a machine that's plugged in by the Congress. Okay, so Congress says, oh, you know, I was reading about this QBI deduction. Now, what that is if you're a small business, you get 20% of your net profit off the top. So that means you're only paying tax on 80% of your profit. That's unbelievable. You know, that's great.
Right.
But now the IRS has to make up the rules, the forms, all the, you know, how do we keep track of this?
Right.
Now, consider the fact, how many government shutdowns did we have?
I
you
don't
know,
even know. I've lost count.
it's so they have a tremendous burden to implement these tax laws, and they use technology. They have to. And so the machine is just spitting out tax notices. That's not like somebody sitting in an office saying, oh, this guy owes us money. Let's send him a letter.
Right.
It's all computerized. And the computer needs information it's expecting it at a certain time. And if you don't give them that information, it's going to spit out a notice. They got done saying, oh, you didn't fill out this form. I mean, sometimes you do, but you usually get a bill based on whatever you did before. Now, let me give you one simple scenario. When somebody sets up a business, if you check off the wrong box when you get your tax ID number, just one little box asking you about payroll. When do you expect to start payroll? If you check off, next month, well, you just plugged into the machine, the payroll tax part of the machine. So every quarter, they're looking for a 941 form. It doesn't matter if it's zero. So you don't even know this if you're a new business owner, if you don't have an accountant to handle the stuff for you. You get a form in the letter from the IRS. You don't know what it's a 941 form. They're just looking for you to fill out zero. And eventually this becomes a problem, okay? Because if those notices go unanswered, eventually they're gonna pile up, okay? There's other forms that you're supposed to fill out. It's the process, Haley, And the fact is, when I was doing research on, what the problems are facing solopreneurs, everybody said that when they get a letter and they all think IRS, they go through this fear and anxiety, and that's a problem. So, I like to just spend a couple of seconds on how to answer one of these letters if you're going to do it on your own. Or are there any questions? Do you have any questions?
So, you bring this up, like this interesting thing. So are there forms that small business owners should be filing quarterly to make sure that they're not getting the love letters from the IRS?
It's not a simple question because there's so many moving parts and stuff that, they're changing the forms all the time. Okay, even something as simple as applying for a tax ID number, if you check off the wrong box, you're going to start triggering something. Okay, so the first thing I would do is not set up a business on your own. Okay, now if you do, and once you set up a business, I don't care what it is, you're going to start getting letters. Okay, you have to deal with those letters. If you get a form, chances are they're looking for you to fill it out and send it back to them. Okay, and the real problem, Haley, is that people are doing business on their own. I set up this Bedrock University to help people that are on their own. So I have courses up there dealing with these issues.
Right.
What happens if you get a letter from the IRS? How do I get a tax ID number? That's one of the courses that I have up there, because I know that no matter how much I advise people to hire a professional, people are still going to do it on their own. Well, if they're going to do it on their own, I want to give them a chance to do it correctly. Okay, you can't go online, look at the instructions of the form, and do it correctly.
Absolutely. I think that requires, that CPA or an attorney to make sure that you're doing the right things.
It's common sense, really. You got to go to somebody that has experience doing this. Starting a business is not you don't take it lightly, because the government doesn't take it lightly. If you want to do a hobby or a little side business, these rules still apply to you.
Right.
I talked about this yesterday. If people have a hobby selling stuff on eBay, and if they go over the $20,000 mark, they're getting a form that goes to the IRS, and now they got to file, now they're a business. So the system is way too complicated, Haley. That's way. Do you know what you got to do just to open a hot dog stand in New York City?
Oh, I cannot even imagine the number of permits and
You're dealing with
insurance and food and safety and serve safe certificates or whatever.
You can't open a hot dog stand without a lawyer and a CPA.
Right.
Something's wrong with that. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, and you don't want to poison, you have people food poisoning because you happen to serve bad hot dogs or chili or something.
I'm not saying there's a simple solution, but I know that there's a lot of complications that can be eliminated. Okay. And I have some ideas, but I'm not running for office or anything.
Right, exactly. No, and part of the problem too is that every single administration has implemented changes in the tax code for better, for worse, right? Obama did it, Bush did it, Trump's done it. Every single president has their pet whatevers that they're pushing through. So then, the IRS then has to interpret that and put it into some kind of process. And unfortunately, it has just led to every single time a change gets made, it's making the process that much more complicated and arcane.
And it becomes a big obstacle for somebody to successfully start a new business.
And to be compliant too. It's not that people are inherently not wanting to be compliant. It's that it's really, really difficult to be completely compliant.
It's impossible, believe me. I'm talking about the accounting community, have to spend a tremendous amount of time on educating ourselves constantly and it's not just the IRS, the states and the cities are instituting ridiculous rules. New York City passed a law that if you have employees, you have to post a special sexual discrimination sign in your office or business. Now, that's only if you're in New York City. Now, I found out about this because our insurance broker constantly sends us updates on the new laws. I gotta pay attention. I'm like, who the heck knows this? Who can stay up to date with this? They're constantly changing. California now has this ridiculous rule where they're retroactively taking people that were subcontractors, 1099s, and making them employees. Now, what that does, let me tell you what the ripple effect is on that.
That just gives me migraines just even thinking about that.
I think it's unconstitutional because what happens is they go into a business, they determine, it's not based on the IRS's rules anymore, it's based on California's labor law rules, okay? And they say, oh, this $100,000 you paid to these subcontractors, you got to pay payroll taxes on that now. You got to pay it to the IRS. And what they're really looking for is the state unemployment insurance. That's what they're looking for.
Right.
They're broke. Okay, so now what's happening, because I have clients and a lot of friends in California, companies are not hiring independent contractors anymore. And they don't want to make them employees because the cost goes up. For every $10 you pay an employee, it costs you another $20 in payroll taxes. So what they're doing is they're making it harder for solopreneurs to stay in business.
Absolutely.
I have friends that are like, oh, I'm getting half the gigs I used to get, because the businesses are, they're not afraid of now. They're afraid of 2 years from now, they're going to come in and say, oh, these people were employees.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, and there's some really asinine rules too about, you know, if you have X number of people working for you, even if they're a part-time contractor, then you may be subject to workman's comp or something like that.
So think about a deli owner. You know, deli owners aren't making millions of dollars.
No.
You know, so imagine a deli owner has to hire a part-time clerk. Do you know the hoops he has to jump through? Now he's got to get workers' comp. He's got to pay payroll taxes. He's got to file quarterly. He's got to hire a payroll company. Just for a guy working 10 hours a week behind the counter.
Mm-hmm.
So what do? They hire the guy and they pay him off the books. The system is broken. Okay, it's got to be simpler, and it's just getting more complicated.
Absolutely. Yeah, the system is definitely not getting easier to handle at all. Yeah, no, I totally agree, you know, and every single change that happens to tax laws or permits or any of that just makes it that much more difficult. Even if, you know, the intent is to simplify it, the net result has never been to simplify anything.
Every time I've heard a politician say they were going to simplify things, guess what happens?
The big bottle of Excedrin comes out.
No, actually, you know, it turned out for me in my business, accountants love the changes because it brings in more business for us. My business is booming. I'm getting new clients all the time, and it's because of how complicated it is.
Right. Yeah.
You know something, Haley? If I wasn't doing this, if I wasn't filling this niche, I'd be doing something else to make money.
Right. Well, and Lynn Minnie, I believe is how you say her last name, says they're trying to drive out independent contractors and small businesses.
I don't know what their objective is, but usually what the politicians' objectives are, the opposite happens. You know, they say they want to create jobs. Let me tell you something. I've never met a politician that created one job. The only jobs they create are for the people that they hire to help them run the government. Okay? I know people that are in government, and that's what happens. Politicians cannot raise taxes because they'll be they won't be politicians anymore. They'll be ex-politicians.
Right. No, I get it.
What they are doing is they are taking the existing rules and regulations and twisting them so that they can get more money without raising taxes. I see it. They come up with a fee. It's been happening. New York State came up with this $9 fee that you had to pay every other year about 30 years ago. It's $9. What is that for? It's not benefiting the businesses. So they come in. So now what's happening in states like California, okay, and other states is the Department of Labor is going after small business owners to try to squeeze out unemployment insurance from them. Okay. It's,
Yeah.
so they're not raising taxes, but they're raising hundreds of millions of dollars at small business owners' expense.
Yeah. Well, and there's probably, I will say the intent is not necessarily to, put small business owners out of business. I mean, I don't believe that that really is the intent. But I think that that is the effect, because unless you are a small business owner and you have done this business thing and you have walked the walk, there are so many things that, we talked about, when I was at Duke, about opening a business and being an entrepreneur and doing all that kind of thing. But until you live it, it's not the same. You don't understand what it's like to, maybe not readily have health insurance available or life insurance because, you're not on a group policy anymore. Or, it's that, okay, well, really, I can't spend an extra $30 a month on, whatever piece of software because that's taking away my daughter's dance lessons. And until you've lived that, it's really hard to relate to the decisions I think that small business owners have to make sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I don't think any politician or government official is purposely trying to hurt small businesses.
Mm-mm.
It's
No, I don't think so.
It's not a cut and dry issue. And
Right.
I have some ideas on how to help new business owners, and that's what we're really talking about. What they teach us in school, I went to SUNY Oswego and I majored in accounting and economics. And what I realized that what they were teaching us was for established corporations, how business.
Absolutely.
Okay. They don't have a course for how to run a solopreneur business.
Right. And even me, I did my concentration at Duke when I got my MBA in entrepreneurship and innovation. And, part of that was putting together the business plans, and part of it was several courses that were specifically aimed at starting a business. But what I saw is that most of those were aimed at high-tech startups who were getting venture capital money, who had larger budgets than your average solopreneur or bootstrapped company. And the reality of the situation, I think, for my class is that I think I may be the only person who went through that concentration and through those classes and started a business who is still in business. And part of that is I'm not a high-tech company for the most part. I mean, yes, we do really complex and elaborate websites that have a lot of programming on the back end, but we're also not doing, like crazy high-tech stuff for the most part. And yes, we do apps and we do those kinds of things, but I don't think that that is considered high-tech. And definitely, VCs are not going to be dropping in trying to give me money in exchange for a percentage of ownership of the company, because we're seeing that rocket ship growth. Really, it's that bootstrap kind of environment that has allowed my business to thrive. And I will say also, because of the fact that I have a husband who works a really phenomenal job, and I thus am not required to bring in a massive amount of money, and haven't been through this process. So I've been free to invest back into the business. But if you're the primary breadwinner and you need to make $200,000 a year out of the gate, this is maybe not the world for you, especially for bootstrapping it.
Yeah. Well, the difference is you're a real entrepreneur. Even if you didn't go to school, you would have been your own business. I guarantee you that.
Quite possibly.
And the same thing with me. I only went to college to be an accountant because I wanted to learn about business.
Mm-hmm.
So you and I have weathered the storm. We've gone through all the hopefully all the suffering, I know that there's still pain down the road because
Always. Because that's what small business is like, right? You know, we talk a lot about, you know, the growth. Yeah, no, it's more like, you know,
so
and,
there's ups and downs. You know, I just
intended to give you nausea there because that's what it's like. It's like that crazy, you know, roller coaster.
I just watched a documentary on Elon Musk.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, at 28, he's the only guy that's started $4 billion companies. He was involved with PayPal, and they kicked him out. Then he started Tesla. Now he's got SpaceX, and he's got this other company I never even heard of, some kind of solar city. Anyway, one of the most successful people on the planet.
Right.
And I don't know how long ago, but he was facing bankruptcy.
Right.
Okay. He put all of his own money into all of these ventures. And he could have lost everything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he wouldn't have lost everything. He probably would have only had, 20 or 30 million left. But
right. Well, and the thing there that I'm going to take a step back and point out, that accountants probably don't like me telling people, but it probably is worth understanding is that bankruptcy is a strategy in business. I can't say it's like a preferred strategy, but you can protect yourself by using proper legal entities and bankruptcy selectively to, protect some of your own assets at times.
Well, yeah, I mean,
it's a strategy.
There's a reason why we have bankruptcy laws. A lot of times companies, it's just a matter of cash flow, and they'll come out of it. With Elon Musk, it was like he had a couple of failed rocket, launches, and then something happened with his Tesla. But this is what happens in business. But
right.
The difference, Haley, is so once I discovered this market of really small businesses,
mm-hmm.
we go into business with the wrong expectations. There was a post in your group today, or it might have been mine, about what threw you off about business. I forget exactly what the question
right.
was, but I posted that I thought it was going to be easy.
Yeah.
I thought, hey, I got this.
Mm-hmm. How'd that go?
It's never easy. A woman in your group posted something about, she started this business, and it's harder than she thought, and she just wants to get it to where it's easy.
Mm-hmm.
And I responded to her. I said, let me know when you get there, because it's still not easy for me. And I don't,
right.
I don't want it to be easy. When it starts getting easy, it's boring.
Right.
So, we're always tweaking our businesses. We're trying something else. And that's what makes us entrepreneurs. But what gets me, is, so you went to Duke for business with all of these people, and you're the only one that you know of that actually had a business and stayed in business.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody that went to business school are entrepreneurs.
No, I would dare say most of them end up doing consulting or other professional services, or they're CFPs, or they're working their way up, through the C-suite levels, because that's really what the business programs are targeted to.
Yeah, and
they're leadership programs.
Yeah, and Napoleon, and there's nothing wrong with that. But Napoleon Hill talks about this in Outwitting the Devil, that schools, and even Ralph Waldo Emerson talked about this in like 1860 when he talked to Harvard, their commencement address. And they actually didn't ask him back for like 30 years because he shocked them. And
what did he say?
What Emerson said was basically that your Harvard degree isn't worth the paper it's printed on unless you do something.
Yeah, absolutely.
For real, in real life, in real business, that education is worthless. And what he said was, back in 1860, was that our educational system is going to get diluted to where an education isn't even worth anything anymore. Okay, think about that. People go to college now. My cousin graduated with a degree in social work with an $80,000 student loan debt. So she owes $80,000 to get a job that pays $50,000 a year. There's something wrong with that. And Napoleon Hill said that they don't teach the right things in college, in school.
Right, no.
They don't teach us how to think, okay, how to become, they teach us how to do stuff. You know, and this even went back to Andrew Carnegie, who got Napoleon Hill to do everything he did.
Right.
And Andrew Carnegie, at one time, the most successful person on the planet, said that, you know, there are personality traits. You know, Andrew Carnegie never, I think he didn't even make it past second grade.
Right.
He said there are certain steps that an individual can take to become rich and successful, and anybody can do them. And that's what he wanted Napoleon Hill to bring out there, and he did it. And they should be teaching things like Think and Grow Rich in colleges. They should be teaching how to win friends and influence people in college that Dale Carnegie wrote.
Right.
You know, these are the books, the knowledge that people use today to become successful.
Right.
It's not about how good you are at math, or, you know, how, oh, I'm the greatest tax attorney in the world. It's not about that.
Right. So
it's the human side of things.
Right. So tell us a little bit, I think that this feeds really nicely into your 5-day challenge. Tell us a little bit more about that.
So the 5-day challenge is something that you actually created, I believe, and it's amazing because over a course of 5 days, I am going to lay out the groundwork for starting a business and taking it all the way through getting your tax return done. Okay, and I'm talking about a small business, a startup. And I'm going to take you through the timeline of what happens and exactly where people start getting off track and what the people that become successful do. Okay, business is like an obstacle course, and it's the minute that you take action. You know, we talked about this yesterday. When does the business start? I have ideas for businesses every day, but I never take action.
Right.
Once I take action, a whole set of things have to happen.
Right.
That's what I'm going to take, you know, the attendees through.
That's pretty cool. So I have posted the link below and above so you guys can register. We're going to be doing Facebook Lives, and Joe is going to be doing bringing us some other guests in for the next week and a half or so. So looking forward to it. The challenge starts on February 17th and goes for 5 days. It's going to be done in Joe's Facebook group. So it's all virtual. You're going to get emails and you're going to get the information you need, but you have to sign up to get all of the information that goes with the challenge and all of the materials that go with it.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Haley. I really enjoy doing these, and I'm really looking forward to the challenge and, you know, hopefully providing people with some guidance on how to
I hope so.
manage their business, how to get into it and reach where we've got. You know, we've crossed the line, not going out of business anymore.
Yep. I love it. You know, the rising tide kind of a thing. Hope everybody has a great afternoon, and we'll talk to you soon.